and Pat Walsh and Clyde Carlo.
10 years ago, you had a kidney transplant.
Yes.
So let's rewind a little bit, Pat, and if you don't mind, and tell me a little bit about when you started to get sick and when you realised that you might be looking at a kidney transplant.
I was feeling a bit weak and I went to the doctor. And he sent me to Dublin and they told me that the kidneys were starting to fail, but I would get away with it for another year on tablets. So I did work for a year on tablets. I had to go up and down to Dublin every month. And then I went on dialysis. I got dialysis in Beaumont. And I used to have to go up 3 times a week, be there at 4 o'clock in the morning for the dialysis. And that went on for a year. And then I was transferred to Waterford because it's just handier. Or sorry, Kilkenny.
Yeah,
and I was in Kilkenny then for 2.5 years, and I got the kidney transplant in.
And do you know how long you were on the transplant list, Pat?
I was about 4 years on it.
In that 4 years, did you believe that a donor would be found?
I was a bit nervous about it. I was a bit nervous that would I get one, and I was worried that would I be looking after younger people than me at that time. I was 68 at that time.
It's difficult, I suppose, for anybody who hasn't been in your position to understand what it's like to face the reality that without a transplant that you might die. So how did you live your life, or how did you cope day to day knowing that you needed a transplant and that was the thing that was going to save your life?
Yeah, well, I was one day at a time, really. I do know that every time I went down for dialysis, when I come home, I was worse. I was getting worse. And I firmly believe I wouldn't have gone another 6 months or maybe a year with them all, because it wasn't suiting me at all. Once I got the transplant in, that was solved that problem.
Did you always have hope, or how did you keep your hopes up?
I didn't worry too much about it. I was just hoping that I'd get the word sometime. At the same time, I was wondering, would I ever get one? You would never be in great form for doing anything or starting anything, because you're one day and the next day then you're back down to dialysis again, then you're knocked out again.
Yeah, so your life really was dominated by kind of life-saving dialysis that you had to have until, as you say, you got the call. So
Yeah.
Take us back to that morning. It was the early hours of the morning, Pat, when you got that call.
We rushed anyway and we went up, and I was there for a few days then. They were doing tests and all that thing before I went down for the transplant. And then when I went down for the transplant, I was in the waiting room for a long time, for about 2 hours. And they told me then the problem was they didn't know what to do, whether to go ahead with it or not to go ahead with it or what to do. They ended up anyway that they went ahead with it and they gave me 2 kidneys.
So you had, I suppose, 2 days from, you get the call, Pat, at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And is your bag packed? Or were you waiting and ready to go?
Yeah, we're always ready to go.
Even when you were in hospital, you still didn't know until you're taken down to the theatre whether or not it's actually going ahead. So that must have been really difficult as well, Pat, to be in hospital and to still, not know definitely whether it was going to go ahead.
You don't know. There were several people to be sent home for various reasons. And they do a lot of tests and checking and all that. When you do go up there, you don't go up there and they just bring you down to the theatre.
Can you remember much about going down to the theatre, Pat, and what was on your mind and what you were thinking about before you had the surgery?
I tell you, I was excited a bit going down, and he was in the waiting room. I would have been awfully disappointed if I was sent home, to be honest with you, because I was a bit excited and was looking forward to it.
And when you woke up having had your surgery, Pat, can you remember much about that and about, if you were talking to the doctors and nurses, if they told you that your surgery was a success?
And I was back in the ward at this stage, and I was absolutely delighted. It was the start of a new life.
It was the start of a new life, Pat, and it meant that you had normal kidney function. You were able to do all the things that anybody who didn't have kidney problems could do.
Yeah.
I think he used to joke before saying that you couldn't even get a drop of water out of it.
Yeah. Eventually got the pump going.
It took a while, Pat, but you got the pump. You got the pump going.
Yeah.
And how is the pump still running?
That's perfect. Perfect. I'm doing what I'm told to do, and the hospitals are keeping it good. If you take the tablets and do what you're told, you have a good chance,
Absolutely, Pat. Like you're a decade on from having a transplant.
Yeah.
What has that meant, Pat? You said that, waking up after the surgery was the start of a new life. So what has that meant for your life for the past 10 years?
That's brilliant. I'll tell you, believe it or not, it was better than winning the lotto.
I bet it was. Although, have you ever won the lotto, Pat?
Well, that was the only one I won.
You can't really put a price on what you got.
No way, no. No, I tell you, actually, if we're down in Kilkenny and passing me to the Yellis, I get shivers.
In order for you, I suppose, Pat, to get that second chance, you had to have a donor. And in your case, in order for you to get a donor, somebody had to die in order for your life to be saved. How does that sit with you, Pat? And how did you process that?
Well, there's two sides to it. Because Brian had qualified and the bloods and all matched, and he was going ahead with it.
Brian, your son?
He was going to give me a kidney, and he was after being in Beaumont and that, doing the checks, the whole lot. He was up there and everything passed. And then this kidneys came through.
There was potential to pursue, I suppose, a living donor, but in the end, a donor was found for you from somebody who sadly died.
Yeah, died sudden.
You were in touch with the donor family, Pat. Did you wrote a letter to them? Did you, through the transplant coordinator?
And they wrote back a letter to me. Yeah, a nice letter that sent back. All right, they were telling me about his father. He was into football and big time, and that he died sudden.
What do you think that family feels knowing that, I suppose, a bit of their family member lives on through you?
I'm sure it means a lot to them to know that there's a part of them still alive, which I suppose from their point of view, it is nice to know, and also to know that something good came out of the kidneys that he had.
Do you feel that you have a responsibility, Pat, to, I suppose, honour that person or to live your life in a way that, pays tribute to them?
You have to pay a tribute to them, but you just carry on life the best you can. Well, once everything is okay and working, so that's the main thing. And sure, you often have to think of them, and think of the family as well. People don't realise what it means, to have a donor. It means everything. Like I got my life back. I can do everything I want to do, the same as anyone else can. No problems, and go anywhere, go where we like, and I have no pain or aches or anything.
It's a bit, I suppose, it's quite a philosophical question, Pat, and a bit of a big one to ask. But what does it mean to you to be alive?
Oh God, you wouldn't get words to describe it, sir. I'm after getting 10 years, 10 good years, The only thing about it, I don't know where they went, just so quick. But I'm after having a good 10 years with no problems, we'll go where we like and do what we like. And should that like means that I'm the same as everybody else, which that means a lot.
You've got lots of things. You've got lots of things to do. What keeps you busy?
Your mother. No, I tell you, it keeps me busy. I'm always rooting at something in the shade, or we're going somewhere in the car for a drive, or going around the town, or go to some of the cities and go shopping, or we have no time or we don't have much time at all. We're busy.
Good.
We do what
That's
we
great.
like.
I know lockdown has obviously meant that this year is different to how it would normally be. And because of your transplant, Pat, you're in a very vulnerable category. So you've had to be extra careful over the last year as well. I suspect
Yeah.
you're looking forward to a bit of normality again.
I don't go in anywhere now. I don't go to shops or anything. And I've been walking, we go for a walk now, we're meeting people to keep out from them and that.
Sometimes we'll quote you, Pat, you're a wise man. And you'll say things like, this life is not a rehearsal, Julie.
It's not, you get the one shot at it. And the dice keeps going around. You don't get a second chance, and you just enjoy every day and make the best of it. That's all. That's the best you can do, really. This life isn't a rehearsal. No, you get the one shot at it.
You made a good friend, didn't you, when you were in hospital? You and Bernie were side by side in hospital beds when you had your transplant a decade ago.
Yeah, that's true. That we were both down in the waiting room, and I was in it before her, and she came down. We didn't know one another, just looked at one another and just nodded the head, you know. And then she was brought in first. But they were discussing at that stage to know what they were going to do with me. And then they said that her son was there, and they went ahead with it. But that didn't bother me anyway, so as long as I got in, that was the main thing.
Yeah, of course. And you and Bernie have, you've got a 10-year long friendship now because of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we kept in contact since. We were even brought back to the wards together, and we got on fairly well together. And we just keep in touch. She just comes down and we go up there to her another time, and yeah, we're the best of friends.
It must be difficult, Pat, because only someone who's been through what you've been through knows and understands what it's like.
I do hate to hear tell of somebody going on dialysis, to be honest with you, because I know exactly what's going on, and it's tough.
You're living proof that good things happen, and good things happen to good people.
It's unbelievable to realise that you can do what same as everybody else can do. I don't sit down and think about worry about it. I just get on with doing what I want to do, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, long may that last, Pat.
Yeah, hopefully. One day at a time.